How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So today we're talking about a leadoff hitter that the Yankees could acquire via the trade market. Now, my friends, I know everyone's thinking about free agency. You're going to hear the names starting to flow, Yamamoto, all the rest. And we'll be here to guide you through this offseason with best-in-class analytical breakdowns, best-in-class reactions and emotion. Guys, we're Yankee fans just like you. We want this team to be great. You know what the difference is? We're going to sit here every single day, learn as much as we can about these players, and give you this information for free. So we appreciate the likes on the videos. We appreciate the subscriptions on the videos. We are going to be diversifying content, building a really great community that we want you to be a part of. So we appreciate that, and we love the support. And we're doing all this for you guys, and I think it's going to be awesome to really enjoy some winning baseball one day as a collective group after going through such a difficult 2023 season. So appreciate that. But let's dive into this segment, this topic on the day, leadoff hitter. We all think DJ LeMahieu is a good player, right? He's a little bit older. He may see some regression. He was really good the second half of the year when Sean Casey was hired. But I think the Yankees could actually go for a much better long-term solution. So who's better than Brendan Donovan in this regard? Of course, Juan Soto would be the ideal fit in terms of a top-of-the-order, just monster bat. And you could still go out and get Juan Soto in addition to Brendan Donovan. And how might you do that, you may ask? Well, Brendan Donovan's going to cost you next to nothing because he has control until 2029. He's making $750K. The guy is dirt cheap. He has 2 years of service time. He played 95 games last year and 125 games the year before in his rookie season. He has 2 years of MLB experience, and he is a freaking stud. We're going to break down the numbers for you, detail exactly why this would be a seamless and perfect fit with the Yankees. The Yankees did actually reach out to them, I think, toward the trade deadline about Brendan Donovan, but those talks are seemingly reheating up. They're restarting. There's a little bit of smoke there. So we'll see how things progress. But Ryan, how you do tonight, my friend, and how good of a fit do you think Brendan Donovan would be for this Yankee team?
Yeah, so first off, I want to say I'm doing pretty well. And secondly, look, the New York Yankees and Brian Cashman came out. Brian Cashman basically came out and said, everybody that's not in the organization is dumber than us, right? And look, we can take that however we want to take it, but that type of press conference needs to be followed up by that type of offseason. And that type of offseason looks like, sounds like, and needs to be an offseason where you make massive improvements. And as you've mentioned, look, is DJ LeMahieu a solid player? Absolutely, he's a solid player. It's not like he's a bad player or anything like that, but you can do better. And Brendan Donovan is doing a hell of a lot better. Right now, Brendan Donovan is probably one of the best fits for the Yankees that is on the trade or free agent market that you can realistically get. He had a 118 WRC plus this past season, his age 26 year, struck out just 14.3% of the time. That would have been the best mark on the team, and had a 2.1 WAR in 95 games. Obviously, his season was cut short due to an elbow injury, but elbow injuries for hitters, it's not the same for pitchers, right? You're not too worried about that flaring up again. Again, he still was able to be a really good hitter in spite of that, and he plays all over the diamond. This past season, he played 34 games at second base, 21 at left field, 14 at first base, 9 in right field, 6 at third base, and even played a game at shortstop. And last year, he was also all over the diamond. Now, he did DH a good bit this season. That was due to that elbow injury. They believed that they could help him avoid IL time by just DHing him and avoiding surgery, but that wasn't the case. But this guy, he can play literally everywhere, Alex. There is not a position he cannot play. In a pinch, whenever you need, it's center field and catcher. That's the only two positions he can't play. He's exactly what this team needs because this team is very injury prone. This team has a lot of guys, and even Brian Cashman said this. He called Giancarlo Stanton injury prone. I think that was very overlooked. You brought this to my attention, Alex. That's a really big thing for him to say, to just come out and say, yeah, we've all been through it. Giancarlo Stanton's injury prone, right? That's a huge thing to say. Clearly, the Yankees want insurance options, right? I don't think they're looking at Alec Burleson because they think he can play right field or they think he can play first base. I think they're looking at him because they want options in case Giancarlo Stanton goes down, because I think they're trying to be prepared for it for once. And Brendan Donovan, obviously, is your solution in left field, is your solution at third base. Honestly, it depends on the offseason. That's how versatile he is, right? If you acquire Brendan Donovan and then down the road Juan Soto becomes available, boom, Brendan Donovan's your third baseman, right? Let's say you have to move Gleyber Torres because an opportunity presents itself, a team makes an offer you cannot refuse, and our stance on this, we really don't want to actively shop Gleyber Torres. Look, he can become your second baseman, and it's not a downgrade, right? Let's say Anthony Rizzo goes down. Anthony Rizzo has a back issue, right? I actually had mentioned this to Sam and Aiden last night when we were talking. Look, how spring training goes, right? It's March 13th. You've had the first 2 weeks were fun. You're watching Yankee baseball, and then Jack Curry tweets, somebody's been scratched to the lineup with an injury, right? Anthony Rizzo could have back issues at any point in time. That's why you have Brendan Donovan, right? That's That's the value of having a guy like this. Obviously, the contact skills are a plus. Obviously, he has an ability to hit for a higher average. He has good on-base skills. I think the power could get better in New York. He is the type of guy who profiles to get better in the power department. But as you've mentioned, Alex, multiple times, not just today, not just yesterday, not just the day before that, but honestly, since the trade deadline, we've been talking about this team needing a consistent, reliable leadoff guy. And Brendan Donovan is consistent, reliable, and he's a switch hitter. It's everything the New York Yankees need.
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely makes a lot of sense if you are the Yankees. Now, looking at some of his numbers, and I think that this is exactly where people are going to get really excited. So in the most recent season, hit 284. And by the way, you kind of referenced this, and I want to go back for a second to Aaron Judge has a big say right now, apparently. And he told the Yankee brass that they want to focus, they should be focusing on batting average and RBIs. If they want to be looking at batting average, look no further than a guy like Brendan Donovan, who had a 284 average last year, 365 OBP, gets on base a lot, 11 homers, which is a career high, 34 RBIs. I think the RBIs could improve. And just basically because the St. Louis Cardinals were not very good, I think the Yankees will be on base more. He had a strikeout rate of 14%, 14.3%, really, really low, and then a 9% walk rate, 118 WRC plus. As you mentioned, the defensive versatility is certainly prominent. Now, this is where things get exciting. So, as a primary leadoff hitter last season, he hit 310. He hit 300 with a 354 OBP, 815 OPS. Which is obviously very, very solid. And then with runners in scoring position, he hit 310 with a 453 OBP, 552 slugging, and 1.005 OPS. The guy was excellent as a leadoff hitter, and he was excellent with runners on base. So, you ask yourself, what do the Yankees need? They need someone who's going to get on base in front of Aaron Judge, and they need someone who's going to hit with guys who are already on base. And if you reinforce the bottom of this batting order, assumingly Austin Wells is down there, Anthony Volpe's down there, you get these guys on base, and then you have Brendan Donovan coming up, who's an athlete who can hit with runners in scoring position, who can, obviously hit for contact. That short right porch, he's a big pull of the baseball guy, Ryan. I want you to hit on that. He loves to pull the baseball to right field, that lefty bat. You're talking about a couple of balls that would have been homers in Yankee Stadium because they landed on the warning track in St. Louis or other parks. How important do you think it is? You love batters that pull. He doesn't spray the ball to the left side very often. He's a big pull kind of guy. But how important do you think it is to have that type of attribute? And also, I want you to discuss kind of the numbers, the metrics with runners in scoring position also, as a player leading off for the Yankees. All of those values and qualities, how do they aid this offense and, kind of make this team a little bit more balanced?
Yeah, so again, the Yankees are one of the worst teams in baseball against right-handed pitching. There's no other way to put it, right? The Yankees were a bottom-tier offense for that reason. If the Yankees could hit right-handed pitching, they'd be a lot better. I mean, against lefties, they were 6th in WRC plus at 114. They had a sub-300 OBP against righties. There are a lot of really good right-handed pitchers in the league, and Brendan Donovan would help them in that regard a lot. And as you mentioned with pulling fly balls, if Brendan Donovan can utilize that short porch, I've said this multiple times in regard to Donovan, he is the type of guy who the raw power isn't good enough to get it out in most ballparks reliably, but in Yankee Stadium it certainly is, especially since he's a switch hitter and would be hitting from the left-handed side against righties. Now, do I like the fact that he has a really good hit tool and really good barrel control? Absolutely. Do I need him to be a dead pull guy? No, I don't need him to make massive changes. Quite frankly, I don't think he has to change anything when he comes to New York, but I do think, as you mentioned, he would get better from some of his pulled fly balls getting out over here that don't get out in St. Louis. Now, obviously the big concern when it comes to making a trade is what are you giving up? But, coming out from the report today from Andy Martino that, the Mets are going to have a harder time trying to, get Yamamoto compared to the Yankees. If you sign Yoshinobu Yamamoto, you don't really care what pitchers you give up, right? No longer does Michael King feel like somebody you have to hold on to a little bit harder. You don't care, right? You don't. I don't mean to put this in a way to demean what his value is. I don't mean to demean anybody on the roster. But Yoshinobu Yamamoto is clearly better than everybody not named Garrett Cole on the team, right? So when you're acquiring him with the mentality and the mindset that you're going out and getting a guy who is going to slot in as your number 2, right? And you can now trade your pitching from your pitching department and trade from your pitching staff, trade from your farm system, do all that stuff because you have 3 of your rotation spots contractually anchored down for the next half decade in Rodon, Yamamoto, and Cole. Another thing that's really important when we're talking about making a trade for Donovan is I think the Yankees would be getting a guy who they can build around. I think this is a guy that, as you mentioned in the open, right, is cheap. Has multiple years of control. He's not a free agent until after the 2028 season. This is a guy who can slot at the top of your lineup for half a decade. He might be a really good extension candidate. Maybe after this season, maybe before he enters, like, his arbitration years, you go out and you give him, like, a 6-7 year deal, $10-12 million a year, maybe he'll take it. But you want to look to build a core, right? This team has kind of lacked an offensive core for a while. If you look at the Astros, right? Even in years where they're not, organizationally as sound. This past season was not a great organizational year for the Astros in terms of process. They still got to Game 7 of the ALCS. Why? Because they have Jordan, Bregman, and Altuve and Tucker, right? Like, those four guys are there, right? In 2022, they were there. In 2021, they were there. In 2020, that team looked a little different. They had Correa instead of Tucker really fully involved, right? But my point is they have a core of position players, and those guys are going to hit. The Yankees have Aaron Judge. That's it, right? Like, we're hoping Anthony Rizzo bounces back. We're hoping Giancarlo Stanton bounces back. We're hoping Anthony Volpe gets better. We're hoping Austin Wells is the catcher of the future. We're hoping Jason Dominguez comes back from injury and looks good, right? But Brendan Donovan would be one of those getting a core piece that helps anchor your lineup. And again, if you get Yamamoto, you don't feel bad about trading your pitching staff. I think honestly, you'd be in a situation where if you signed Yamamoto and he's traded for Donovan, you might still have enough ammo to go out and get Juan Soto. And in a world where you have Brendan Donovan, Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge, I mean, Alex, good Lord. I mean, talk about building a core. I mean, I'd honestly, Alex, I think I'd start visiting my church a little bit more if that happened. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm going to be a religious man after that, man. Good God. I mean, seriously, though, like, I will say this, Ryan. The Yankees can do that. You know what I mean? It's not out of the realm of possibility that we won't see an offseason that aggressive. And, like, that's the thing that really frustrates me, knowing that the Yankees could pull the trigger and actually execute that strategy, right? Yamamoto is always going to cost us money. All it is money. Yankees can afford to pay money for a player of that caliber. So, and everybody is saying that they're going to be in on Yamamoto. Everybody. So that's obviously a very good step in the right direction. The links to Juan Soto are there. So, like, theoretically speaking, you sign Yamamoto for money. He's going to cost $200 million probably, but still, like, you're getting a guy who could be an ace after Garrett Cole leaves. Brendan Donovan. You give up Clark Schmidt maybe and a couple other pieces. I'm not exactly sure what his return would look like. What we'd have to give in return, obviously, 2029 is his free agency year. He's extremely valuable for St. Louis. You give Clark Schmidt and a couple other pieces. I'll ask you in a second what you think a reasonable deal would be for him. And then Juan Soto, who's 1 year removed from free agency. He's really a 1 year, until he hits free agency. And he's just going to cost money, and he's not going to cost you a ton. The Yankees could always wait and just sign him for money. Again, don't have to give up any prospects. Just sign him for money, which they are more than capable of doing because they have more money than freaking God. So I'll ask you this, Ryan. Give me two trades. Like, what would the Yankees have to give up for Brendan Donovan, and what would the Yankees have to give up for Juan Soto, in your opinion? And could they actually make that happen? Just like, you might not even have to shred your farm system. You're going to have to pick it apart a little bit, but you're getting one is superstar level talent, and you're getting another guy who has the upside to be your leadoff hitter for the next 7-8 years, which is, you can't, that's value you're not going to get, and he's going to cost you nothing in terms of salary. So you're getting a guy that's going to have a high salary and a guy that's going to be basically you're getting for free in terms of how little he's making. So, give me two trades here that would make sense that, you think are realistic.
Yeah, so if you're looking at a Juan Soto deal, I think you go Everson Pereira, Chase Hampton, you go Michael King. I think that right there, those three players, I know that it's a 3-player package. It's 1 year of Juan Soto, and those three guys are really freaking valuable, right? Like, I'm not going to use the other one I was going to use, which was that starts with an F, but that's a really valuable, like, that's a good 3-player package, right? If you want to throw in a 4th player, sure, throw in some random like lottery ticket prospect, and then if you're looking at a Brendan Donovan deal, I think Clark Schmidt, you throw in like Johnny Brito, you throw in like Will Warren, right? Like that type of. I think that could get a deal done. Again, it's a 3-for-1 for that, and you're getting 3 controllable pieces. And if you're the Cardinals, you're getting one that slots into your rotation, another that could potentially slot into your rotation in Brito, but I'll lean just he'll be your reliever, he'll be in your bullpen. And then Will Warren has some pretty good upside. Will Warren is a pretty good pitching prospect. I know that his coverage is not as intense as the guys like Drew Thorpe or Chase Hampton, and for good reason, right? Like, those two guys are perceived better, and they've had better minor league seasons. But it's like Will Warren's a slouch either. I mean, the guy led all of AAA in stuff plus and pitching plus, and had the second best qualified ERA. So this is a really good pitcher, right? And overall, like, I think that those packages could entice them. Maybe you have to throw in a little bit more. Could you swap out maybe Johnny Brito and throw in like Ian Hamilton, somebody who's a little more established and has maybe a little bit more value in the trade market? Maybe, right? Like you'd still have, you'd still have Drew Thorpe in your system. You'd still, like, if you swapped out Brito for Hamilton, you'd still have Brito and Vasquez, right? Like, you'd still have really good pitching. Like, you'd still have Beater. You'd still have some guys at the lower levels like Brock Selledge and Henry Lane. And
Fitz.
Yeah, Richard Fitz. And at the end of the day, I mean, Alex, the Yankees traded all of their pitching depth last year and then just drafted two guys better than everybody else they had. I'm not saying the Yankees are a perfectly ran organization. We certainly think the opposite. But when it comes to drafting like a 7th rounder who somehow becomes one of the best pitching prospects in baseball, they're really good at that, right? Like, they just do a really good job of that. And I have no doubts that they're going to be able to do it again. And also, like, how many of these pitchers are ever going to be better than Juan Soto or Brendan Donovan at the sport of baseball, right? Like, that's pretty hard. Like, Juan Soto especially. Like, how many players will you ever draft that will be as good as Juan Soto? And like the guy again, like, to clarify for everybody, in the 21st century, only Barry Bonds has a higher OBP. Not Aaron Judge, not Mike Trout, not Mookie Betts, not Bryce Harper, not Yordan Alvarez. Juan Soto. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, sign me the frick up. Sign me up right now. I will drive them to the airport myself. And you know what? When you're looking at the value, so like, let's assume you give Clark Schmidt away, you give Michael King away, Johnny Brito goes away. Now you have to solve a couple pieces. You have to fill a couple gaps here. So, in my opinion, you're looking toward, let's say you got Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, you got Nestor Cortez. You have to sign Yamamoto. You have to go out and get Yamamoto in this sequence. And then you have to hope that Drew Thorpe develops into a starter rather quickly. And then, of course, you could bring back Frankie Montas to round things out. And maybe you leverage like an MLB ready player now. Like, if you go get Donovan, maybe you like trade Gleyber Torres for a starting pitcher. And then you have Brendan Donovan who can play second base, like maybe, or DJ LeMay who could play second base. That's an option. I'm not saying that's a preferable one for me. I like Gleyber Torres. I think they end up keeping him. But at the same time, Donovan's ability to play multiple positions at a high level, I mean, he was a Gold Glove in the outfield, I believe. So then you're looking at a guy who really brings you substantial value that you may not find. Like, he's like a superstar utility piece. You know what I mean? He's like the cream of the crop in terms of utility pieces. Outfield, he can play every infield spot. He has experience at third base, shortstop, second base, first base, all the outfield positions, notably the corner spots. And then Yankees needed a center fielder and a left fielder. And keep in mind, you're still going to get Jason Dominguez back at some point. And then you have Brendan Donovan in left field, Jason Dominguez in center, and then you have Aaron Judge in right field. And you're not even talking about Juan Soto. And, Brendan Donovan can end up transitioning to an infield spot long term. He could play third base, he could play second, whatever, they want him to do. It's just like, this is ideal. DJ LeMahieu, you could just put him at third base full time. Just put DJ LeMahieu at third base full time. Brendan Donovan now becomes your primary utility piece in the infield. Like, I mean, that sounds like an ideal situation if you ask me. So would love to hear your perspectives below, guys. I mean, the Yankees can do this. You know what I mean? Like, they can do this. This is not out of the realm of possibility that they get a controllable piece like Donovan, an elite superstar like Soto, and a huge upside pitcher in Yamamoto. If they get those three players, we are in a World Series conversation next year. And, barring injury, we're in a really freaking good spot to compete, because those three guys bring so much value to our team. It cannot be replicated by depth pieces like Franchy Cordero, my friends. You just can't do it. Those guys help you supplement losses to, perceivably guys like Judge, who may, if he misses any time. It helps you cover up the blemish of Giancarlo Stanton. It helps you cover up the development of Anthony Volpe as he continues to get better, of Austin Wells. It helps you cover up some liabilities as they get better and refine their game and find their identities in the MLB. And they're already well on their way. So I'm excited to see how this offseason goes. But man, they really got to be very aggressive, in my opinion. I think there's no excuse for them not to be. But guys, always happy to hear your perspectives below in the YouTube comment sections. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.